Hello, this is Randy, K7AGE from the Experimental Aircraft Association's Airventure, as they call it, air show in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. Recording this on Saturday. The activities around here start on Monday and run for through the following Sunday, I believe. So, just going to fill you in a little bit about my setup and the group here that I'm camping with, and we'll see some of the air show stuff in another video. There's none of that really close to where I am here. So I started off on Saturday, June 16th. I left Go Beach, Oregon, and I went to Echo, Oregon, to a Harvest Host winery to camp. Now, Harvest Host is an organization of places that you can stay, camp for free. It's usually boondocking, no types of services or anything, and there's a lot of wineries and breweries and golf courses and all sorts of things. And they also partnered up with another organization called Boondockers, and this is I think more private people's places. Either they got land around their house or a farm or something like that. So you join the organization, it's $100 and something, and then you can stay at these places for free, although they may like you to buy a bottle of wine or something like that. So I stayed at 3 Harvest Hosts on the way out and 2 campgrounds. So my first night in Echo, Oregon was at the Snow Road Winery, and I'll drop in some stills here that I took in some of these places. And that was 493 miles from home. It was in a little town, and they have a little parking area out behind, and I was the only guest staying there that night, so I could pull straight in and back straight out in the morning across the street to go under my way. Very friendly people in there. I kind of got set up and went back in to taste some wines. I'm not a big wine person, and it was hot. It was really hot. So I said to the lady, "What wine's good on a hot day?" She says, "Well, we have several beers too." And I said, "Right on." So again, when you're in the Harvest Host, you have no hookups, no power, no water, and no way to dump your tanks, your black and gray tanks from the trailer. So you're on your own, which no big deal for me. I've been doing it at Quartz Fest for years. So what's one night on the tanks? Next night was Jim and Mary's RV Park in Missoula, Montana. That was a nice campground. That was an easier day, only 368 miles. So camping there, now I get power, electric, maybe cable TV, which I didn't get there. And I'm also able to dump the tanks. So I stayed there, powered up, I could run the air conditioning because it's pretty hot. In the morning, and dump out, fill up the freshwater tank to about 2/3. I don't need to carry it full. That's a lot of weight. And on my way. Third night, July 18th, in Miles City, Montana, I stayed at the Tiltworks Brew House. And again, a little town. It's a little brew house, brewery, restaurant, tiny casino right in town. Parked on a gravel parking lot out behind the casino. And it was really windy that day, and the trailer was rocking, and I had the door open and the screen door open, and a big gust came up and it blew all sorts of leaves and dirt in the trailer. Oh, what a mess. But what I didn't realize, there was a train track about 50 feet away from me. While I was there, 7 trains went by, including one at 2:20 in the morning, 4:40 in the morning, and 5:30 in the morning. And there was cross streets right across the track, so they're blowing the whistle and stuff and rumbling around, and the train's a mile long, and so beware if you're going to stay there. Next night, the 19th, was in Buffalo, North Dakota at Red Trail Vineyard, and this was the first vineyard, I believe, in North Dakota. When he started it, they all thought he was nuts with that cold climate up there, but he got some hardy grapes from that I guess the local university had been developing or whatever, and it's just outside of town a little bit in Miles City, and you get off the interstate 94 at that point, I believe, and you pull up to the intersection there, and you look to the right, and it goes off to a gravel road. And you look to the left, it goes off to another gravel road. So 2 miles down the gravel road is where the vineyard was, and pulled in there. They have like a 100-year-old cabin that they moved there. The fellow who owns it, Rodney, is a farmer of corn and soybeans, which is really common out in the Midwest. And he grows the grapes, and he has a friend do the winemaking. And they had 4 different types. And when I pulled in there, there was one other couple there, and I'm going to say like a what's those small Mercedes vans? Everybody knows what those things are. Those conversions. I'll think of it in a minute. I have CRS at times, and then another lady came in. She was like 75 on her own. In fact, she's going to Alaska this summer with her RV solo. So at 5 o'clock, Rodney says, "Oh, we'll taste some wine." So we sat in the cabin and tried the 4 wines. Everybody was talking about their trips and stuff, and he talked about the history of it all and things. So it was a real nice, pleasant time. And they do a lot of parties, weddings, and functions out there. And every Friday night they have dinner. And of course, I wasn't going to be there, but it was I think it was ribs and chicken wings or something. That was going to be that Friday night, and they had a real nice park area out on the side for events. Really a very nice place, so really enjoyed that. So that was the second Harvest Host in a row there. So I was then 2 nights away from reaching Oshkosh. So my last night, July 20th, was Chippewa Falls, Wisconsin, at the O'Neill Creek campground. This is a big place. I asked the gal at the office, "How many sites you have in there?" And she says 400 or so. So I was kind of out in, looks like a new area, just out in the field, out in the sun. It was blaring hot, but I had hookups again, so I was able to fill the water tank, dump the black and gray tanks, because I had a couple days build up, and I knew I was next leaving there and going to the campground here in Oshkosh, which is, if you remember my videos from Quartz Fest, we're out in the desert with the sand and the rocks. Well, we're out in the field here with green grass, and that's about the same. There's no services. You can get campsites with power and water, but they're really, really expensive. So the first day was 493 miles, second day 368, fourth 497, third 431, 371 to the O'Neill Creek campground, and it was about 200 miles to get into Oshkosh. So that was Friday morning. I checked out of the O'Neill Creek campground. I thought I would do my laundry before I got in here, because it's been 5 days on the road. I'm going to be here for about 10 to be about 12 days before I get to my brother-in-law's place in Rochester, so I knew somewhere I had to do laundry. I can't carry that much. And there is a huge laundromat just outside the campground here at Oshkosh, but it is really, really busy. So on Googling around, I found a real nice laundromat there in Chippewa Falls. Really clean. It was Suds Hub is what it was called, and I was first one there at like 8 in the morning. Lady was there. It was pristine, clean. I think all the machines except one was working. A lot of them you could use a credit card if you didn't have quarters. Luckily, I stocked up on quarters before I left. So that was the trip. Uneventful as far as nothing broke. You're always glad when you pull into the camp area at night that you got there safely. No accidents. You didn't blow a tire on the trailer, and all these types of things that can happen. Water tank didn't fall out. I've heard of that happening to people. So got in here I think about 2 o'clock Friday afternoon. It's now Saturday. Wow. So let me explain a little bit about the group here that I am with. I think back in 1983, I was kind of the force behind saying, we ought to go to Oshkosh someday. We ought to go to the air show. and my now brother-in-law, Barry, K7GVB, he also goes to Quartz Fest with us. He and I and a couple other guys rented a motorhome. This is before the internet. I have no idea how we found it. Flew into Chicago. I arrived first. The motorhome place came out with a limo, picked me up, went and got the motorhome, checked it out, drove into O'Hare. That's back when you could kind of almost park up by the curb. I got in a slow line, everybody showed up. We came out here and stayed way the hell out in a field because we didn't know. So that was about 39, 40 years ago. So, and then, you know, we kept talking this over with friends and stuff, and the group got larger and larger until, I don't know how many years ago, we started getting campsites here. So it's kind of a strange system. The campsites only operate for 1 month, basically 30 days before the last day of the show. And there's no reservations. First come, first serve on the spots. Well, we need a lot of spots together. So in the early days, we would be buying camp spaces. Now, because a lot of people volunteer, after 3 years or 40 hours of volunteering, they get a free camp space. So a lot of people now are rolling their volunteer work over and over, and they get free spaces. And one of the people here lives about an hour away, and we send him all our campsite tickets, and he comes in here the day the camp opens up, and it's like the Oklahoma Stampede out at the front gate. There's people lined up, and they run in here, and they basically have a lot of wooden stakes and yellow tape and have all of our tickets, and they stake out the overall site and all the individual sites within the spot and pound a stake in the middle, and there's one that has my name on it and all the others. And then they leave and come back. Some of them maybe 2 weeks before it starts. They may come by for a weekend. They came out and mowed the grass and stuff. But in order to have that campsite quote reserved, you got to pay for it for the month. Well, this year it cost $1,180, even though I'm only going to use it for 10 nights. You know, if I wanted to showed up here and bought a ticket, I would be out in some field somewhere far away. So it's and it goes up every year by about $100. It's getting really expensive. So the gang here ended up being a lot of friends of ours, which turned out to be a lot of television broadcast people and flying people, and it became an international thing. We've had people come in from Australia, New Zealand, and Europe and pitch tents out here. With COVID, that's not happening. But we have, I think, about 10 to 12 campsites here. And people have their trailers in here and tents and such, and it's gotten really organized. And over the years, Bob, into OML, you've seen his, he's been in my Quartz Fest videos. Unfortunately, Bob passed away on Father's Day this year. It was really sad. But he was kind of the scoutmaster, and he had about a 12-foot utility trailer, and you'll see the camp kitchen and the big canopies and all that stuff that are brought out and set up. So, and then once the show starts, we do a group breakfast and a group dinner, and different people cook at night and stuff like that. So, and let me see what else is outside here. There's a few generators around. So in the utility trailer is a 7 kW Yamaha. So we basically have extension cords going to a lot of the trailers, and we're not running our air conditioning, but it allows the refrigerators to run off 110 and keeps the batteries charged and laptops charged and all that type of thing. So Ray Novak is now here from ICOM. He arrived last night. A couple of us went out to dinner, and on the way back, he said, "Can we go by the Warbirds area?" So we found Ray's RV and texted him, and he said he's not going to set up on Saturday because there's a thunderstorm coming in tonight, because he has about a 45 foot mast with the hex beam on the back. So I guess that's tomorrow's project to get the antennas up, and then get W9W, the Warbirds Special Event Station, on the air, and I'll be operating over there. A little tour of the trailer here. I have a mini Winnebago, 22 foot long. It's got a bed up in the front. It's got 2 bunk beds in the back, and when I travel solo, it's a good place for all my stuff. I can load a lot of stuff in there. It's got a pop out for the dinette, and on the dinette here I have my large laptop. I got my Bearcat BCT, I think at 15 scanner, which I programmed up for the couple of local repeaters and a lot of the air traffic things. It's really interesting. The planes landing coming in here. I did a video back in 2019. Search on my channel for Oshkosh 2019, and you'll find a video that I shot of the airplanes landing along with the radio communications. It'd be the same thing this year. And what's neat is that they have colored dots on the runway. So one's close to the airplane landing, one midfield, and one at the end. And they land them 3 at a time. They'll tell somebody to land on the green dot, the yellow dot, and the purple dot, or whatever they are out there. And it's interesting because a lot of pilots aren't used to flying the length of the runway and to get down to the last dot. So they're telling them to stay up, stay up, stay up. And when they get down, they're told to get off the runway right away because they're lined up for miles and miles out. If you go to Flight Radar 24 and look at the Oshkosh area, you'll see what I mean. Planes with their ADSB beaconing their position. So on the dinette here, I have my laptop, my scanner. I got my IC 7100, which I've shown before in some videos. The new change here is that underneath the table, the table here drops down, and there's a couple boards on each of the seats that the table sits on to make it into a short bed. So I took a piece of plywood and cut it so it fits between those boards, so I have a shelf like, and I have the 7100 mounted on there, and I have it at an angle so I can get to the connectors. And next to it I have an Alinco, whatever it is, switching power supply. And so the radio's in the mobile bracket. The power supply, I just drilled 4 holes out so the feet can fit in, and then drilled a couple holes on each side and ran a tie wrap around it so that can ride there. So if I have power, I can run off the power supply. If not, I have my 30 amp hour Bio-NO battery in the PowerWorks case. This is a great this is the handiest thing to have because I have, it's got 4 power pole connectors on it. It's got a voltmeter. It's got 2 kind of common USB sockets on it. It's got a cigarette lighter socket, and I added another socket which has a more of a high charge capacity USB, as well as a USB-C socket, so I can plug in the charger for my Apple Watch. So I mean, there's all sorts of things plugged into that. I leave the battery charger plugged in, so when the camp generator's running, it'll top everything off and makes it nice. When I do need to have 110 volts in here, I have a little, I don't have it here, but it's a little Kensington. It's an old little inverter. It's probably good for 150 watts. I have a power pole connector down underneath the stove here, so I can plug the inverter in, run a fan, run my TV, charge the laptop. So that works out handy. And yeah, what else here? I think 1 or 2 nights on the road, I know at least one, I did set up the radio system and worked a bunch of guys on FT8. I got on this morning. A lot of the camp guys are off. A lot of them work in the Warbirds registration. So Warbirds is a big thing here. All the military planes, a lot of the World War II, the big old prop stuff. They're really neat to hear those engines run. So when the Warbirds pilots land, they go over to the Warbirds registration building and they get signed in, and they do a Warbirds judging. And these guys go through the planes, and they're down to the original screws and all this stuff, and they get graded. And I guess it's a very important judging because it can increase the price of some of these planes by maybe $1 million if they're the top. Oh, when these pilots check in, they're given these bags, a little tote bag, and they're stuffed with all sorts of information. So I helped out yesterday because a lot of people here volunteer over there. Some of them have been doing it for 20 years. And so I went over there and we set up an assembly line. We put in all this stuff and put it in the bag. But what's important that these hours go towards your volunteer hours, which go towards your free campsite. So I got 4 hours in yesterday. And the way this works, you need 3 years of 40 hours of volunteering in order to get the free camp space. So, and my time on the special event station counts towards it. So I have some hours from 2019. I'll get probably more hours this year. I don't know if I'll ever get 3 years worth of enough 40-hour weeks in order to get a free camp space. It's a long trip for me. I don't see myself doing this every year. Maybe I'll come back next year. We'll have to see. So that's Warbirds registration. That's what a lot of people here do. Some of the other people here, Bob, N2OML, and his son Joe, would work on taking photographs of the planes, the Warbirds, during the day, and then they would put together a big PowerPoint and video for their big Warbirds celebration, I guess next Saturday night or something. So Joe will be working on that without his father this year. And Joe's due to arrive here later on today. So that's Oshkosh 2022. And I think that's all I can chat about for now. It's gone a lot longer than I had envisioned. So look for me on the air. Look for W9W, the Warbird special event. We'll be on sideband, CW. 3 years ago, I ran FT8 when the bands went to crap and made about 150 contacts. We'll probably be operational Monday. Watch the spotting. If you do Facebook, look for Ray Novak. He'll be posting on there. I'll be posting on my Twitter account at K7AGE, at least when I'm there, and we'll have a good time. Hopefully the bands hold up and we can work a lot of my viewers here. I know a lot of people are looking for us. And Ray takes a bunch of photos during the time here, and after he returns home, he lays it all out and has a nice fold open QSL card. So a lot of people really want that QSL card. And I believe he mails them out without having to receive a card or a self-address. I think he and ICOM take care of that. At least that's my understanding sitting here now. My voice is running out. I'm going to step outside and shoot a bunch of stuff around the campsite here in the trailer, edit this together, and by now you've seen it all. This is Randy, K7AG. Push that subscribe button, please, if you haven't. Push the share. Hit the like. That all helps on YouTube. And we'll see you later.